First of all, your thoughts on this new deal?
I think it's a culmination of the first part of the president's strategy. His strategy is to shift U.S. trade policy from something that really is rooted in the Second World War, assisting partners and opening up global trade, to something that's a little more U.S.-centric, what he would call America First. This trade deal was the most important trade deal. These are our biggest, most relevant, close trading partners. China's bigger by dollar volume, but if you think about the integrated commerce that goes on in North America, getting a trade deal done with Canada and Mexico had to be the first priority, and I think it will make other parts of the trade strategy easier to implement.
So you like the plan then?
Well, the specifics of the plan definitely benefit the U.S. relative to what they were, and I think that all three countries functioning together and trading more freely will benefit all three economies, which will make the U.S. Put the U.S. in a better position. But as it comes to NAFTA as it was and NAFTA as it is, or USMCA, it's a marginal improvement, so it doesn't make a lot of difference. It makes some specific differences if you're a dairy farmer or for dispute resolution, things that the average worker won't be interested in. But long term, I think it's an important deal in order to get the rest of the trade strategy implemented.
Okay. Well, he talked about the imbalance that NAFTA created and wanting to change that. Do you think that will? Can you elaborate a little bit more? Do you think it'll make it more fair?
Yeah. I think for workers, particularly in some of the manufacturing businesses, such as autos, it will make a significant difference. Obviously, if you're working in Mexico at an auto plant and you're making $5 or $6 an hour and you compare that to somebody in the U.S. making 4 or 5 times that, this deal will make a difference. And the reason for that is it mandates a higher wage for auto content workers. So in some cases, it will triple the amount that a Mexican plant will have to pay a worker. That obviously will make the U.S. plant more competitive. And so over time, it actually should see U.S. jobs in the auto sector continuing to grow.
How do you think it's going to benefit Mexico and Canada?
I think for both of the countries, anything that keeps markets open and free and lowers trade barriers improves the amount of commerce between the countries. And so overall, the lower cost between the countries, the open and free trade, should raise GDP growth in all three regions. And inasmuch as the U.S. and Canada and Mexico now become partners to compete against other regions of the world, the Eurozone or Asia-Pacific partners, then it should make the whole region more competitive and more integrated when competing against others.
Well, what does it say to the rest of the world, and how do you think the world is seeing what President Trump called this brand new deal? How's everybody else looking in on this?
Yeah, I think the number one thing foreign leaders should understand is this particular president takes the view that America has some advantages that they've not used in the past when negotiating trade deals, and they will use those advantages in the future. And specifically when it comes to China, who was essentially invited into the World Trade Organization without making a lot of concessions and keeping a lot of tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers, they're going to have to negotiate some of those things if they want to have trade free and fair with the U.S.
You talked about this a little bit earlier in the interview, but how will businesses like farmers and so forth, businesses, farmers, and families, how will they benefit from all of this?
I think for families who want to have an opportunity to compete, grow their productivity, keep their manufacturing plants in the U.S., it gives them a more fair footing versus countries like Mexico. When it comes to farmers in particular, this deal really does focus on farmers, in particular the state of Wisconsin and dairy, and gives them an opportunity to grow their export market into Canada. So a state that's very important to this particular president definitely benefited from this particular deal.
Okay. Andrew Root with the Regent School of Business and Leadership. Thank you so much for your time and your insights, sir.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.